Yes, welcome to Blackopolypse podcast media with
Always get the
lovely Laverne Major, although I still prefer Major. And we have, I want to say this correctly, is it?
How you doing? How are you?
I'm
it's
good.
Quay.
Is it Quay?
Everywhere else in the world, it's Quay. Everywhere else in the world is pronounced Key, but here
Yeah, we say Key. Like obviously in England we say Key, or in the UK. But Quay Bowen.
Bowen.
Or Bowen, yeah.
Really, I wouldn't even. Okay.
All right, my son's still trying to like mess with the camera. You can stop
Hey,
now.
Bowen, it's a nice name, very unique.
Thank you. All right, so hi guys. I'm so sorry that I can't join in through video. We've been having technology just hate us the past week. Son's laptop died, my laptop died, and now my old desktop decided the camera doesn't work.
Okay, no problem. It's all good. Actually, you could probably put a picture there, to be fair.
Technology.
I mean, it's not important now. Don't worry about it. But hopefully, if there's a second part 2 to this, you could put a picture on it.
Well, by part 2, I'll have computers.
Yeah, I was gonna say
we'll have computers next week.
Come by then. So yeah. Anyway, so today we want to talk about adoption. And the reason why I got Mrs. Major here, because Mrs. Major is how do you put it? A product of adoption.
I've got some experience. Yeah, I wasn't adopted. I was fostered, but I was almost adopted. So I've got some thoughts on that.
History. Yeah. So maybe Quay, you can start us off and tell us a little bit about yourself and the topic at hand.
All right. Okay, so my name's Quay and I'm from the US, actually Atlanta in US, and Atlanta, Georgia. And I was in foster care from, I'd say 13 to about 19, 20. And when I say foster care, I use that term loosely. For the most part, I lived on the streets, like sleeping on buses, sleeping on MARTA.
Oh my gosh.
MARTA is our transit system. So imagine sleeping like on the trains in Europe. That's where I slept. I lived in a public library and I had a couple of foster homes. None of them worked out well. And part of the reasons that they didn't work out well is they were, for example, the 2 that I had, 9 girls to 2-bedroom house. I slept out in the basement with spiders crawling on my face.
No, like what kind of
what is this?
This is Atlanta.
This is Atlanta.
This is Atlanta,
story? Georgia.
Jesus.
American Horror Story, literally. And it's not special. This is actually how foster care here is in the United States.
Really?
I would love to go out there and see something like this. Come on, Wayne, we need to go and when they let us, we need to go and check this out.
Sure.
Do some panoramas.
I mean, my story is it's like you have 3 types of foster care experiences in the United States. You have the kids who are fostered. They come in and they're like 5, 6, maybe 3, 4, and they're just the cutest little things and everyone wants them. And then they turn 5 and then they turn 10 and then they start to get hormones and acne, and then they're thrown into the other side of foster care, which is group homes and shelters, and where people don't really. I was told at 13, no one wanted me. That the second I was in foster care, they said, no one wants teenagers. You're either going to end up in a group home, a mental hospital, or or jail. You get a group home if you're lucky.
I was told that, so I can relate to that. I was told that by my social worker when I was 11. That I was being abused. I was being abused, and every time we told them, they told us that the option from foster care would be a children's home, and we'd be abused. We wouldn't survive if we went there. So stay where you are.
Yeah,
you're strong. You've still got your mind, and basically stay as long as you can, because it's basically the grass ain't greener. Imagine being told that
at 11. I don't think I could have handled it at 11. At 13, it was hard enough. I don't think at 11. I would have been able to emotionally stomach that.
Yeah. But I get it, like, I want to hear your story. I don't even want to talk about me. I want to hear you.
Oh, I thought we were going to exchange.
Yeah, you're going to exchange. You're going to exchange.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
This feels so weird not being on camera. Okay, so part of my experience, one of the biggest parts is that in Georgia at the time, they would not place me in foster homes because the majority of the foster homes are white people. And they tried misguidedly to keep Black children with Black parents and white children with white parents and etc. Now, I will not, I just want to go on record saying I firmly believe that I don't care what race someone is. If they're willing to love a child that's not theirs, they should be able to. Like kids at the
I agree. This woman's like my twin. Where did you find her, Wayne?
I can't remember.
This is crazy. Like, it's mad.
And like the result of that is there's so many more Black kids in foster care that we were all just hanging out in shelters for years and years and years.
Are you for real? Is that? Oh my God! Sorry,
yes.
This is really emotional. I'm just like, what? Okay, cool. So,
now that's a law that's recently changed, but the process hasn't changed because we don't have enough Black foster parents here in the United States. In the US, we have a really big issue with child removal of ethnic minority communities, especially Native American and especially Black. It's
Wait, can I just don't forget what you was going to say, but you know, when you say there's a problem, do you mean that the Black children basically, or children of color, are being removed, like just big, large numbers of children are being
Black and Native American children are being removed, not because they're being
there's a shortage of parents to look after them, but you're still going to remove them from the parent.
Yeah, they remove them for things like poverty. So let's say you're a child of a single mom who works 3 jobs, which I was, and your mom works all the time, and you're at home alone with your younger sister. They'll take you from that environment and say, that's not okay. You're a neglected child.
And put you with pedophiles. Yeah, I know.
Yes. Put you in a shelter, and it happens. It's exclusively Black and Native children almost. Like they're.
You know what's shocking me? Because I'm not shocked about this. It's just weird that it's happened. Like that it's actually.
Is it happening across the pond
in America? Like this is just it. That's obviously
it's actually a rich part of our history. It's a rich part of our history.
Massive part, and I think. What you just said there is so important because there's many people that we don't realize, like our previous generation. So I'd say who are now in their 50s, that they had a lot of in what you call it, interference from the social, from the authorities in the 80s and whatnot. And there was a lot of dividing of families. And I'm obviously a product of that as well. Because
a lot of your favorite rappers are actually foster children, especially from the 80s. Okay. A lot of your, can you hear me? A lot of your favorite rappers.
And I'm not surprised. I'm actually, because it's, it's just, I can't believe that America, it's just weird because what you're telling me reminds me of England. This is exactly like how it is in Britain. So it's weird that America is exactly the same.
Well, it's I'll say it's 2 parts. So one thing is the Indian removal, Indian child removal, quote unquote Indians. And they sent those kids to something called the Indian schools to take them away from their culture and destroy the culture out of them and turn them into functional white kids. For Black kids, it was around the same thing. It's starting back from slavery where they had farms. They would farm us like cattle. We'd have babies and they take our kids and take them away and send them somewhere else. And then that merged into this foster care system dynamic where children of color are just taken routinely away from their parents. I have friends who are white whose parents made them wear diapers till they were 14 as punishments. You never had a defects call to their family. I had kids who were family.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I saw that. I relate with that.
Foster care. A lot of my friends from high school were abused by their parents, but the teachers
never removed. And I saw a lot of that. And do you find that when you've grown up in care, you get to see things from both sides? So you see yourself as, okay, this is what would, because you always ask yourself, what would have happened if you stayed at home? Do you know what I mean? How would your life be? And when you see children that don't get taken into care, then you can say, and they have to stay at home, and you see the difference, and you just, do you know what I mean? You weigh it up.
They do better.
This is it. Sometimes I feel like I'm lucky. I was one of the lucky ones sometimes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, across the board, everyone I know from kids who were, and I don't know, me and my friends used to say there was something in the water in the 80s that was making all of our parents just insane. Because whether it didn't matter where I was, if it was high school and I'm with normal kids, or if I'm in foster care and I'm with like foster kids, it was like parents are beating us, parents are on drugs. It was like, what the heck is happening? Didn't matter the race. Even my Asian friends used to be like, my parents beat the hell out of me and they don't love me. Like, what was wrong with these people?
Yeah, the mental health was serious.
There was no laws. There was no laws back then against it, and that's why it was a lot more lenient. But now there's a lot of laws. You can't hit.
Do you know what, Wayne? I remember because my foster parent was extremely strict, old school Jamaican, and they used to beat us and pass us the phone like, see it there, go phone the police. Here you go. And so, you know, like when a black person tells you go phone the police, you don't phone the police, right?
Oh, you get worse.
But they did business. They were like, me no business. And we told them before we took you, go in church, and we're old school. So it is what it is. But I remember her telling me stories that it was so racist back in the 80s that they had to beat their children to behave,
get them
so
high.
that and also so that they wouldn't misbehave on the street and the police take them off the road. And so they said it was, you know what I mean, they needed to like have the kids scared of them so they could keep them under control. But I think they went too far, which some parents obviously didn't find a balance and they just pushed their children out of the home completely.
A lot of people, like my mother was thrown out of the home for having me, but it was very weird because she was a rape baby too. I mean, she was a rape victim and I was her rape baby. And so she's now 15, 14 on the streets having to raise her child. But it's like, okay, you didn't want to follow the rule. Yeah, it's slavery did a lot to Black people in America. I don't even want to like. I can't even deny it. The whole concept,
it's life. It's normal in America. That is so crazy.
It was in the 80s. It was normal for, and I'm not going to just blame it on slavery because I know a lot of white people whose families just threw them out for being victims. One of my friends' moms, similar story. He's a white guy. His mom was raped by her dad, and she got pregnant. Yeah, she got pregnant. My friend's mom was raped by her dad. She got pregnant and she got thrown out of the house. And that's a white family, so I can't
stories. And I realized I didn't have it easy. I'm not gonna lie, did not have it easy at all. Horrific. When you've been in care, like you've always got horrific stories in it because you see stuff that you ain't supposed to see, you know. But at the same time, I met people that had it worse, and it made me really realize, like, you know, there's always someone that's had it worse than you. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, I 100% believe so.
Yeah, and I just thought, wow, it just made me realize how the world is just, you know, like for kids as well. It's not a nice place. Like if you have a parent that loves you, supports you, and wants you to do well, like that is a massive blessing. And a lot of people don't have it. And I think the world doesn't realize how much people don't actually have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but on the other hand, that logic is like twisted on us, especially in foster care, when they tell you like it could be worse if you leave here, you shouldn't speak up. Does that make sense? Like at shelters and stuff, they're like, well, you could be in this other place and it's worse. And I'm like, you guys are starving me.
Jesus Christ. Man.
Like, can't tell me to feel lucky that I'm here and have a roof over my head when y'all are literally refusing to feed me.
No, it's serious. It's serious. As a child in care, I found that you had to become an adult ASAP.
Yeah.
Because and the reason being is because what I saw, my experience is that adults were not treat me like a child.
No, you had to be an adult.
So the conversation, it'd be two sides because of, I don't know if they knew that when you grow up, you're going to be independent, you're going to have to look after yourself. I found that they used to speak to me on a level from the get-go. So if there were nice people, they were speaking to me in a mature way, you know what I mean? But in a nice way. But if they were not nice, they would speak to me like I was their age when I was a small child, you know what I mean? And I'd have to deal with, I'd have to protect myself from big over there? People. Does that make sense?
Yeah, do you guys have this thing called the dozens where like Black people like make fun of each other and it's like jokingly and just friendly? Y'all have that, like, we don't
call it the dozens. What do we call it, Wayne? The dozens.
What's that?
Where we roast each other, Black people. Would you say roasting?
Isn't it dissing?
Yeah, just dissing, cussing each other.
So that's what I experienced from almost all of the Black staff members at these group homes. But what they fail to understand is when that happens with your family and your friends, you know, at the end of the day, those people are coddling you, they're feeding you, they're showing you love in other ways, and that's just good nature ribbing. But when that's removed and you're just in a group home or a shelter, that's abuse. That's a child who's defenseless just being made fun of and mocked constantly by adults who don't understand, and the kid doesn't understand the context of it. I didn't know what like the dozens or Jones or dissing was when I was 13. I was just like, why does everyone make fun of me everywhere I go? Why don't Black people like me?
See what I mean? How so what's your heritage, Craig? Sorry, because I can't see you.
You can't see me. I'm so sorry.
African American.
That's okay. Don't worry, it's all right.
I am African American. Although my story is a little bit unique. My great grandmother is, I can't pronounce the name, but she's native, Sinope or Shinape. She's native, and she was removed at an Indian school, and she ran away. And that's how she ended up with all these Black folks, and her children are Black and her grandchildren are Black. She's dead now, but the stories of her running away from the Indian school is actually why I would run away from shelters, why I would refuse to stay in these bad places and let them abuse me.
You heard about your mom or your grandma, and you thought, no.
Yeah,
I know
I'm not like, it's that rebel in my blood. I wish it was like a runaway slave story, because then I could just make it easier, because here in America, everyone and their cousin is like, oh, my great grandma's Cherokee, so you can't say that anymore. But yeah, that's the reason why I would run away. Oh, you stopped. Oh, kick me out.
I saw the picture of you.
So, yes, I can see you now. Thanks, Wayne. So on it.
My big old head.
No. It's nice to put a face to the voice, isn't it? Because I just thought it'd be interesting, because you did say, you know, but yeah, it's all right.
It's very bleached out, but that's my fault.
No, you look lovely. Lovely picture that is. Nice.
But yeah, so here in the States, it's just so weird. And I'm starting to learn, especially now talking to you, that it's the same in Canada. And it's apparently the same in the UK, how we treat
the same all over the world. That's what I'm like, what? Like exact same experience children in care are going through. That is mad.
It's the same communities being targeted in Australia. They're targeting the Australians, and at what point do we say, hey, do we acknowledge the fact that it's actually, and I hate to say it this way, actively white people actively trying to destroy the cultures that they're targeting?
Okay, so now this is where it's funny, because,
and not all white people, but the government, the system.
The system, and it's about acknowledging it, because what's happened is, remember, it like you said, in the 70s or the 80s, it's quite new. So we are the generation that is the you know, like the ones that are able to have a voice, because the generation, from what I can see, the generations before us, you know, they didn't quite make it. I don't know how to say it, but you know what I mean? Like,
the ones I can't say, I don't want to say the person's name, because they haven't personally spoken to me about being in foster care, but like I met KRS-One. He was a foster kid. Apparently, Lil' Kim,
the rapper.
Was a foster kid. So when they spoke out, it was in context of other stuff they were doing, but if they would have made their entire thing about foster care, their voices would have never been heard. Their system doesn't want to be put on blast like that. There's ways to make us silent.
Yeah, of course not, but we're living in a different time now, which is why even, you know, like when I'm hearing your story, I'm kind of thinking, wow, okay, because you wouldn't see people having a conversation like this 5 years ago through technology. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so, I felt like I had to speak up, and I should have spoken up a long time ago. Once I graduated college and like I was being paraded for governors and stuff, I should have started really speaking about the foster system, not as a fundraising thing for the group homes like I was doing, but saying all
being
the
token,
stuff I thought.
You mean? You spend a lot of time being the token.
Paraded around, speeches everywhere. Hey guys, I'm a foster kid. You should give us money. Yay!
Yeah, been there.
I'm so cute. No, I should have been telling the reality of it. But
what it is, what I've learned is time is everything, and we are not in control of that. And even though you say, oh, should have, it wasn't the right time, just like it wasn't for KRS or whatever his name is, KRS-One,
the reason I'm speaking now is recently here in the States, a 16-year-old boy was killed in a group home. using the restraints that were used on me and my friends every day, multiple times a day. And his offense was, I believe he threw a piece of government cheese, like the American cheese. I'm pretty sure you guys don't have
cheese. I'm finished.
I call it government cheese because that's the cheese blocks I used to give in the welfare.
I love it. I need to spend
like
the day in these toes. I'm done.
So he threw a piece of cheese and they restrained him and they suffocated him and he died. And I felt like if I would have said something 10 years ago, that kid might be alive. If I would have pointed out that they restrained us, not for getting violent and crazy, but for my first restraint was actually for talking, not out of control, but just talking to another girl who was new. And the staff member, in this instance, was a racist. And so she ignored the fact that the white girl that I was talking to was talking and decided to give me a timeout and then restrain me.
You know one thing, this is what's so weird, because I find that the times that we're living in now, everything's kind of lots of stuff that people don't normally talk about, or do you know what I mean? Things that have been happening in society, people are now starting to address everything, and it's all coming out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it's really weird because what you're making me remember lots of stuff. Like this is like
sorry.
trigger. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No. But luckily, I've already done my counselling and started my healing journeys and things like that. So I'm able to process differently now. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But what I'm saying is, for people who have never been in care, young people, like yourself, Wayne, you've never been in care, have you?
No,
You never know people's stories.
So,
some people
that's the thing. To me, I'm just like shocked. I'm just shocked. I'm like, is this what happens?
That's what I was going to say, because you can't, you can't get your mind around to think that like an adult would strangle or suffocate a child for no reason.
Yeah, it's so evil. It's pure evil.
But and this is the thing. Like, I saw it, and when I was, and this is what I believe. Like, you see children that basically are exposed to evil from a young age. Yeah, if you don't crack up, then you are here for a reason. Does that make sense? Because it's not a joke. I get where you're coming from. Do you get what I mean? Like, I know I haven't experienced what you've experienced, but I know what you've been through. I can imagine, because basically you're the child then that would have been the naughty child. That's what this is, yeah?
Oh yeah, I was naughty because I was a Jehovah's. You guys have Jehovah's Witnesses over there?
Oh yeah.
Jehovah's Witness,
yeah. I was Jehovah's Witness, and so my naughtiness was me refusing to
Lord
pray.
Help you.
I refused to pray. There was like a serenity prayer, the AA one. God grant me serenity to respect to things, blah 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 blah. They wanted me to say that at every meal, and I refused to because I was Jehovah's Witness. You can't say these kinds of prayers, and so that they refused to feed me if I didn't say the prayer. And then the next part was they tried to implant. Do you know what an Norplant is? The tubes they put into your arms for birth control. It's like 5 years. It sterilizes you for 5 years. Well, at 13 years old, they tried to force me to get one. They were making everyone get one, and a lot of my friends were having them like explode in their arms and stuff. And really? I refused to get that. I was like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm 13. I'm a virgin. I don't have sex. I'm a Jehovah's Witness. I'm a good Jehovah's Witness girl. I want to grow up and get married and have 6 kids. And I'll never have sex before
them. Too vocal,
yes,
and too smart.
Too vocal,
so you're just a problem.
Yes,
you're the problem.
That landed me in jail. I ended up in a mental hospital. Within 24 hours of getting cooked. I've been in jail multiple times.
Girl, this is a bad girl. I'm telling you. This is what I'm saying. Like, she was the naughty girl. I know the difference.
But not her fault. It's not her fault.
Trust me.
The first time I was in jail was for, one time I went to jail, it was my fault. But the first time I went to jail, it was for playing baseball, and the bat flew out of my hand, and it hit a kid who was special needs. And the teacher who didn't like me, I spit on his car. Yeah, he convinced the kid to press charges, even though at first the kid was just like, oh, no, Quay, I understand. You're my friend. And then the teacher told him that, no, I didn't like him and I hated him and I did it on purpose.
Yo.
For that.
Teacher. That's a teacher.
It was a teacher.
You have to fight adults in when you're in care. Your enemies start young and they're not children. They are never children. You're fighting big And I'm not talking normal. Imagine the mental health of these adults. If they're going to attack, if they spend their time, like, you know, their hobby is to antagonize a child who cannot defend itself. Could you imagine the level of mad people that you have to combat?
It's people who have no control over anything else in their life. And so they take control over the kids and torment the kids because they have no control. They have
power trips.
Yeah, it's all
bad. I don't know how I survived. I'm telling you, and you've just reminded me so many things that I've had to go through because I've forgotten a lot.
The second time I went to jail was for throwing the
I pushed it to the back. Do you know what I mean? Just so I can get on with my life.
But what was the second time you went to jail?
The second time I went to jail was for throwing a boot at a girl who had previously, but not in that instance, called me an N-word. And so I lassoed my boot and threw it at her and knocked her in her face. I almost went to boot camp for doing that. That boot camp is like military punishment.
Yeah.
Where you have to basically be like you're in boot camp for the military, but as punishment for months. And the very first judge was going to send me there for what this is technically my first offense. I threw a boot at a girl who called me a bad name. But luckily, when we came back to court, it was a different judge, and it was actually Judge Hatchett from the TV show. And she told me I can just go home.
Oh, you're on TV then? Did you?
No, I wasn't on TV, but this is before she became the TV judge. Okay. But my story actually has a lot of people before they were famous, I guess you could say. One of the staff members at one of my shelters was Nicki Minaj's manager, Deborah Antony. Okay. And I'm pretty sure Nicki Minaj is actually this girl from my shelter, but I can't say the girl's name for confidentiality.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised because remember her house got burnt down, didn't it? So she had to live somewhere when her dad burned down the mom's house.
I'm not sure I'm not positive. I know Miss Antony.
Anika? Is her name Anika?
No, the girl's name it sounded like Minaj. That's all I will say. But it was not that. It wasn't that. So it's possible that I'm just like connecting two things that aren't the same. But I know Miss Antony adopted this girl whose name sounded like Minaj and this other girl from our shelter. And then all of a sudden we hear about Nicki Minaj and it's like, wait a minute. Did you make her famous?
Are you guys from where? Are you guys from the same city then or something?
I don't know. I don't know much about Nicki Minaj. I know Deborah Antony. She was a staff member at our shelter. She's one of the ones who told me that they wouldn't let me go to school because they didn't have to. Because I was 16. At this point, it's like way into my story, and I'm 16 years old and I'm back in a different foster system. This one's Fulton County. And there's this horrible shelter where pimps could come on campus and just take girls. And we were stuck.
But you don't know about all of that life there anyway.
Weren't allowed to go to school. So I don't want you.
I'm lost for words, man. I don't know about this. Like, this is.
And see how she just rolls it off the tongue like the pimps just come in and just grab the girls. Crazy.
I say this stuff with such ease, like it's normal. I'm sorry, but that's what life was like.
Yeah, for you, it's normal though. But for okay, I complain because I had just my mum there, obviously, and I was like, oh man, I just got mum. My dad was never there, typical. And I complain. I didn't have a good childhood, but now I'm humbled. I'm absolutely humbled.
Listen, but like. This is what it is. It's because it's weird. Like everyone lives their own world, isn't it? And we're all dealt different cards. So, like for instance, when I used to meet children that were quite privileged, you know what I mean? Like that had mom, dad, aunties, Christmas, presents. Like
I went to
random
Emory
family
University.
Friends buy them stuff. I'm like, okay. Do you know what I mean? I never used to jealous them. I was
going to say, I understand the privilege because I went to Emory here in Georgia. That's like the equivalent of going to not Oxford, maybe St. Andrews, and that was actually our sister school in Scotland. So imagine that kind of prestige, and you're just like a foster kid in that.
That's happened to me as well. And this is what I don't understand about the system because I noticed that they do that, right? They put you in very privileged environments, and then they kind of monitor to see how you act, and then they put you in very like poverty-stricken environments, and you know what I mean. I noticed that that happened to me quite a lot. Do you know what I mean? I was thinking, I'm going mad. Do you know what I mean? Like, am I going to be rich or not?
Actually, oh my gosh. So the system didn't do this to me, but I did this to myself. I would run into people, random strangers who would let me come live with them. And I swear, I lived with everyone from like a meth addicted stripper to an Olympic gold medalist, or maybe he got the silver, in like $1 million house, to learning to drive on a brand new Ford Mustang convertible, and then begging for change to ride the bus to get motel rooms. Like that was like these weird dichotomies of my life just going.
I can
for
relate.
4 years.
You're a little bit more gangster than me, though. Like you were out there. You were
Yeah.
out there.
Gangster.
You did a business.
I think she had to be though, innit? She had
Yeah,
to
I
be.
love it. It's to me, it shows me that, because you know, when I was growing up, I'm not gonna lie, I used to think I was the only child, even though in your situation you was, but I was, when you're in foster home, remember, you're closed in, so
Yeah,
it's not the same. There's
that's
no,
the only world
do
you
you get
know.
me? You think you're just the only one going through it, which makes you then be very embarrassed. You don't tell anyone. Like I remember used to lie, and just I had the most elaborate lies. I used to believe them just about my family and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh.
But
tell me one lie, I'll tell you one of mine.
Is that your mom?
Wait, tell me one of your lies and I'll tell you one of mine. I just want to compare lies because I lied a lot.
Yeah, we just become good at this shit. You know, I had to be a good girl when I got older because I had to just get all the badness off me.
Okay, I'm waiting for the lie.
All right, let me
I'm waiting for the lie.
Okay, so my main one, when guys used to ask me where my mum was, I used to say that she's doing life in jail.
What?
Killing a man.
Oh my God, you lied down.
Who tried to rape her, so she murked him, slit his throat, and she's doing life.
Yo, that's
hardcore.
hardcore.
Come out to get me.
That hurts.
Oh my God.
That hurts. Yo.
Okay,
that's what I used to say. It used to work.
I want to know if Craig can top that, man. I don't know, man. That's killer.
I can't top that one, but I can do a two-part. So one of my lies, I was in jail, and they kept asking me why I wanted to be white, why I was so white, why I didn't know anything about Black culture. And I just started speaking in an Australian accent and said, I'm not white, I'm Aboriginal. I mean, I'm not Black, I'm Aboriginal. I'm from Australia. And not everybody in the world is African. And I was
that's a good one.
but an Australian accent. And when they asked like me to prove it, I was like, I had this like big birthmark on my leg, like that had surgeries and all this stuff. It's like mangled. And I was like, yeah, this is from a shark bite in Sydney.
Yo.
Went in.
Actually, you know, we had a show a couple of weeks back about Black people wanting to be white. And yeah, that was a very interesting story for us. That was actually, funnily enough, one of the shows that I spoke to Nigel, and he wasn't very happy about it. Because he swore blind that he never wanted to be white in his life. And I was like, trust me, if you was raised in Europe or America where white is right and supremacy and privilege is there,
Yes.
At some point you wanted to be white. But he said, no, I never wanted to be white. I was like, nah, man, even I wanted to be white. And I'm probably like, I'm not pro-Black, but I'm really, really proud to be Black.
No, but you know what, Doreen? I'm telling you, let me tell you what I've been, because I remember when I was 3, I lived in Western-super-Mare, and this is before there was I couldn't remember what my mum looked like, so I'm the only, you know what I'm saying? Like, all I know is white at this time of my life. And I remember going to these parties, you know, where they go with a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and like, if you know, like they have these proper, like it's almost like you know how Black people have family reunion, white people have these dinner parties.
Yeah.
Like you must know, yeah. So we used to have to go to these dinner parties, right? Obviously, we're in Western-super-Mare, where you know, like this is white land back in the 80s. And I remember them saying, "Oh, you've got nigger children," and they knew that we were obviously adopted because it's like, why else would they be here? So it was like we were like poked and prodded, and for that reason, I didn't want to be white. Do you know what I mean? Because it was just like I remember looking and thinking we're different, but because they haven't treated me like I'm the same. Do you understand what I mean? It was just a weird feeling. I was only young, but I remember I didn't want to be white, but I just didn't understand. I didn't understand my Blackness. You know, like how I am now. Like I know I'm a Black woman.
Yeah, you don't want to be different. It's not.
I think that's what it is. You don't want to be different, innit?
No, but some Black people want to be white. Like my daughter said to me when she was really young, like, I wish I was white. I wish my skin was white, because I took her out of a Black school and put her in a white school, right? So she felt like that, and I had to really explain to her and realize, okay, I need to tell her about her skin, her hair, and really go in with her cultural knowledge now, so she understands who she is and loves herself. But yeah, so I get it. Some people just want to be white. They just they know about black people and they don't care.
I think there's a difference between wanting to not be different, which is a lot of kids. Like they'll say it'll come out with I want to be white because white is the normal.
Yeah, that's what's accepted. Yeah.
And it's something that I have friends who are of Southeast Asian descent who wanted to be white as well. Like you just don't want to be picked on for what is different about you, and so you want to become something that's not picked on. And for me, I remember I had a friend tell, like, the first N-word joke I ever heard was from one of my best friends, and in that moment I just didn't want to be black. I didn't want to be white. I just,
oh God, I'm black.
This sinking, because the joke ends with it's a pig and a rabbit, and they're a blind pig and a blind rabbit, and they feel each other to tell each other what they are because they don't know. And the rabbit is like, you have fluffy ears and a cotton tail, you're a rabbit. And then the rabbit feels the pig, and the pig has bristly hair, big lips, and a big butt. And then the pig starts crying, and the rabbit's like, why are you crying? And the pig says, I'm an N-word. And that was told me by my best friend who had she had zero understanding about why I was hurt. And she was like, you're not black, you're chocolate. And chocolate has milk in it, and milk is white. And so you're white.
Yeah, I had people used to be like, I'm an N-word in the dark, and I hate N-word, and I can't believe it, man.
I had get that way in school.
I think the one girl,
all my friends up until I was about 12, that was their daily vocabulary, man. That was their daily language.
Where was this?
I was in Birmingham.
Really?
Yeah, man. Hardcore Birmingham. But I used to have the most racist friends. Well, that only got, conscious to me after, when I was like, yo, my friends were racist. I had friends like with a master race. I remember friends saying to me, yeah, with a master race.
I used to get called pubic hair head.
No, but your friends were clued up at 12. I don't even know about master race.
White privilege is deep, man. Trust me, they know.
What area was that?
That was when I was the master race. All that stuff came when I was in. I had people asking me, why do I like to date white girls and stuff like this. I was like, this is the only girls available at the moment. I was living in rugby, so there weren't no black girls. I was like, there's no other girls around. Who should I date? One black girl was around. She was taken all the time by the other black guy.
The one black girl,
really, there was one black girl, and we all liked her, but she was always she didn't seem to be interested in us, but she was never available. So it was like, yo, we have to, we'll fight for scraps.
Oh yeah. God, I can't.
That was
I did have my friend who told that joke apologize to me. She read the I have a blog. Well, I'm writing a book, and then part of writing the book, I'm putting blog excerpts up on my website. And so I talked to her about it beforehand because it portrays her negatively. And she read it, and she was like, my dumb ass. I know my dumb ass said some shit like that. I am so sorry. I am mortified. Because that's her now. But because back then she didn't really even know, because she had only been in that environment. Most of my friends were from backwoods, nowhere, Georgia, where white was the only thing, and the only time they really interacted with black people were probably some drug addicts. You were probably drug addicts because their life had been spent in boondock nowhere, Georgia.
Yeah.
I have a similar experience, but I find that with me, what I find is, you see, if you are not black, because it's not just white. I found Asian racist people and Chinese, like in Spanish, like different races can be racist towards each other. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah.
How I sum it up is, if I know that you have no clue. So like, I know that this is the first time you've even bloody seen a black person. I don't even feel offended, and I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm not offended when they just say dumb shit. Do you get what I mean? Because I'm just like, you don't know any better. But it's the ones like, you see the whole we're the master race. That would have had me in my feelings. I'm like, you've done research and you've come to okay.
The master race, master.
You know what I mean? Like, that would have got me. But I remember when I was at school, because I went to a school in Lichfield, because I was in care. So I had the privileged pick of the schools and stuff like that. So I got sent to Lichfield. And I remember when I was in year 7, I didn't understand, like, there's different types of racism. Does that make sense? So the girls that I'll be talking to, the Irish girls are pulling me away from them, like, oh, chat to her. And I'm like, why? They're like, she's racist. I'm like, she hasn't said anything racist. They're like, she's racist. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, I
gotta trust them.
Yeah, like if the white people protected me from other white people, hello.
Oh, sure.
That's what went down for me. But I remember.
You do have to.
Sorry to cut you. I was going to say, I remember when they'd had that conversation with their families, because with me, I think whatever they were told that black people are not intelligent and that we're savage and you know, like there's just no order. So when I came into the classroom, I was naughty. So I think I ticked the box on that one. Yeah, I was naughty and I was a handful, but I was intelligent. I was always like the top of the class, or second or third, top three for everything all the time. And I remember them coming up to me to be like, you're smart. Like, I can't believe you're smart. I'm going to tell my mom. And that's when I was just like, what are you talking about? And then after about 2 weeks, when they got comfortable, so by the time I'm in like year 9 and they know that I'm not going to beat you up, you say, yeah, because it's real talk, bro. Until they know you're not going to beat them, they ain't trying to talk to you.
I had to make them think I was going to beat the hell out of them, because it got to where they were
need it. Don't get it. No, I know what you mean, but with me,
I stepped on some girl's neck.
What?
She said I was ugly and couldn't get the ugliest boy there, and so I pushed her out of the chair and stepped on her neck and was like, "Say something else, bitch."
Yo,
I wasn't gonna.
Who got the podcast here?
I'm sorry, you've been throwing hands from day.
Who we got on this podcast?
I did, but here's the thing: like, you have to understand, like, if there was a female version of Carlton Banks, that is me. Beyond. Carlton Banks, Steve Urkel, nerdy girl, and I'm having to do this because she was so extra and constantly one time she tried to make me clean up her poop, like straight up from The Help. She got other girls to say that I pooped on the toilet, and she did. And luckily a black staff member.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
Luckily a black staff member was like, "No, Quay is not cleaning that." And but this is how far that girl was going. She was just like tormenting me. And I had to finally make her afraid of me.
She tried to bully you and it went wrong. But I went through it.
It was that typical Mean Girls, Regina George stuff. And it gets to the point where it's like, you know, I grew up in Decatur. And if you're going to bully me, you need to have like some kind of physical intimidation, because just words ain't going to mess with me. But I'm going to.
That was me when I was in school. That was it. Because I was like, you know, when they try to bully you, you just look at them like, oh, like, God, you have seen my color, yeah? Like, you do know that ain't gonna work. I used to be so cheeky because I'd be like, oh, God, I'm gonna have to beat you up like this.
And it's so weird because you have to put
crazy that. But I had some beautiful, you know what though? On the flip side of that, I saw the difference for my friends and family that didn't go to white schools and didn't have that additional side of life. And do you know what I mean? Because what that made me realize from a young age is that racism is it's not, you know, like as black people we're always like everybody's racist, white people are racist. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we're just frightened because we've been through so much shit. So I'm not even sorry, but I am. Do you get what I'm saying, right? But my point is, I realized from a young age that it's not. And when you turn around and tell yourself that the whole white race is racist, you're messing yourself up, because it's not, and you can't move forward. Like with my friends, because obviously I was the only black girl, either way, they couldn't move forward without me, and I couldn't move forward without them. And because of that, we had a beautiful bond. Does that make sense? Because our differences. And when I saw that that's how, obviously, God created race so that we could work together, not that we could fight each other and flipping hate each other. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I saw. So now when I see people, even if they come racist, I just think you're just unintelligent. It's not about your color. You're just actually stupid, and I will deal with you on your intelligence, not because you're white.
I find myself having to constantly defend here in the States, especially now with all of the MAGA and Trump and stuff like that. The worst part of this is anyone who is poor and white is now and have always actually been I don't speak well. They've always been
Yes, you do.
depicted. They've always been depicted as these like racist inbred yokels who are dumb and don't know anything. And I'm constantly having to
I'm
say
not being funny,
no.
but I love this slang, this new slang that I'm learning. It's brilliant. What did you call it? Sorry.
Racist inbred yokels, like
Yokels.
the
Yokels,
slack
you
jaw.
know.
So they were depicted as that, and everyone's presented as that, and I have to constantly be like, no, my friends aren't like this. In fact, I get more racism by you well-educated, wealthy, middle-class white people than I ever got hanging out in the middle of the boonies with a bunch of like
Oh yeah,
dropouts.
white kids in the ghetto. Listen, don't mess about with our white kids in the ghetto. They're different breed. You know already, they're a different breed. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I'm not talking about ghetto.
White.
What's the equivalent in Europe? The countryside?
Yeah, we have the countryside, like the suburbs.
Okay, so that's the suburbs. Where do you talk about when you're really far away from the city, where it's just like farmers?
It's a village.
Rurals, village.
Rural, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
rural
like
area,
the
village.
rural
Yeah.
villagers here. I have to defend my friends who are from these rural areas, because everyone assumed that if you're not from the city and you're not well educated, you're racist. And I'm like, you know what? I've had more racism as a scientist than I ever had hanging out in farm burning silos and trying to find magic mushrooms in the boonies.
Yeah.
Everyone's just got their own isms and schisms now. Because even myself, because I went to white schools, like I said, I made it a massive point that I needed to come into the ghetto. Well, I didn't want to come into the ghetto, but I needed to come around my community because I felt like I didn't know. Do you know what I mean? Enough.
Yes.
About my community, and I didn't fear my like black people because I knew I was black. I was raised with, like I said, my foster parents were proper old school Spanish Town, 3 Mile, Kingston, Yardies. There was no in between, and they didn't raise me Western.
What's a yardie?
Oh, Yardies like
Jamaican.
Jamaican, but freshy. So you know the English is broken, like they're just raw.
A ghetto Jamaican.
Yeah. Ghetto Jamaicans, yeah.
The BBC with all the colours and the
There's only so
long
much slang I pick up from BBC. So
yeah, but this is, and so that saved me, and I do give thanks for that, because when I went into white environments, because I was raised by Yardies, I was blacker than, do you know what I mean? I had culture in myself, so I'll be going to school with bun and cheese and handing it out and making everyone eat it, and saltfish fritters. You know what I mean? Jerk chicken, and everyone.
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah.
And that's actually that's actually why I approached him. What's your name again, sir? I'm so sorry.
Wayne
or Alstallio.
That's why I approached Wayne, is because it was to talk about that disconnect from the Black community, that why we need Black foster parents. I'm sorry to take it back to a serious thing, but
no, I love it. Mm-hmm.
So I was very much the opposite. While I had 2 Black foster parents. They lasted for like 2 weeks because I'm not going to lay in a cot and have spiders crawl on me and be told I can't go to school. I'm not doing that shit. So I would run away, and I found these white people who would take me in. It was always white. Well, there was one Black lady, and she tried to take me in when I was 13, but she had, at the time I was told that if she helped me at all, by other people, that she could go to jail and her kids could be put in foster care.
For harboring you.
Yes, for harboring a runaway. So I went with these white people, and all of a sudden I'm 16 years old, and I'm having to answer for stuff like, well, why can Black people say the N-word, but white people can't? And having to have literally defend the white side of everything, because you want to stay in the home you're at. And so one thing that I had, and this is like the worst conversation, is I'm basically selling out of like my family and talking about, oh yeah, they were all welfare queens and welfare is blah blah blah, and Black people just need to get their stuff together. Not a Black child having to say this stuff, not because I believe it.
They make you self-loathe yourself.
Oh, I didn't self-loathe. I just want to be clear. I didn't self-loathe. I had to say this stuff because I didn't want to be sleeping on the park bench the next week.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I had the opposite. So I was told that you love white people too much, and they're gonna wrap up doo-doo and give it to you in quality streets.
and so
I used to get the opposite.
I went to school, and like you did, in very white areas once I was in foster care, when I was allowed to go to school. Went to Riverwood in Sandy Springs, Georgia, which at the time, now it's very diverse, but back then it was all white and maybe some Bosnians. With a lot of immigrants, Bosnian immigrants, Serbian immigrants, Russian immigrants, anyone who came over from the Slavic wars in Europe had like small communities. So it was diverse, but it was also still almost all white. With like maybe 13% of Black kids. So I had this like very unique experience of like all of my friends were white. All of the people I knew were white. The only adults who were nice to me were white, because of course the Black adults, I didn't understand it. They were just joning. They were just joking around. When they're making fun of me, I took that to heart and it really hurt my feelings. And then coming out of college, like in college, all my friends were actually Chinese, but still not Black. I had one Black friend in college, and she was actually like me, where she was a very suburban Black girl.
So would you say that it's shaped your relationships that you've built now as an adult?
No, I mean, I have no relationships, because it gets to a point where you have to have, Black people are very much about their culture. And when you come like Carlton Banks into a room full of Black people and they're all talking about something that you have no idea, no concept of,
I've been there, girl.
You're out.
I hear you.
I had one chance to make a Black friend at the shelter, and we were talking about you look really young, but it was like Master P, and I was in one.
I know I look young. I'm not cracking yet.
So I'm not sure if this is going to go over your head because you look really young, but Master P was really big at the time. And
yeah, I know Master P.
He was my one reference to it. And so I'm at the group home, and this girl's like, yeah, what kind of music do you listen to? I'm like, yeah, I like Master P. He's really cool. Yeah, Master P. And she's like, do you like Mystical? I'm like, yeah, she's awesome. And she looks at me, the girl looks at me, she's like, Mystical is a man.
He's trying to fit in.
And that was the last time I had a Black friend. So this loss of culture.
Oh my God, that was. Do you see what I mean? The trauma. You don't want to be embarrassed about knowing it. You see how life is. Now, funny you should say that. My trauma with the Black thing was the MC Hammer thing. So I moved from the white family to the Black family during MC Hammer days. So I missed it because I was moving. So then when I got to this Black house, everyone is doing the Running Man. And I'll never forget it, you know. And everyone's like, can you do it? And I'm like, do what? Bruh, my life was over. Who told me to?
It's done.
Who told me to say do what?
I couldn't booty shake. And like, same for me. I couldn't booty shake. I'm just sitting there like, there's this like gif of that girl from oh gosh, it's a cartoon, and a little girl is white girl is trying to booty shake, and that was me. Bob's Burgers. So it's like the girl from Bob's Burgers trying to booty shake, and that's what I looked like. And the girls just roasted me.
Ripped you. Now, babe, I've been there. But you know what? You've got to go through it, don't you? And most of the things that I was embarrassed about when I was a kid, I laugh about so hard now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I swear down, but I know the feeling, because it's traumatic and this is another thing actually, and I might have to say this because this is live. Black people, we need to be aware that our culture is so strong that if you are trying, like when a child has no knowledge of the Black culture and you go straight into it, it's such a shock. It's a massive shock.
You know what I would also say though, to add on to that, is if you do happen to end up going into a white family, it's important that the white folks who adopt you make the discover the Black culture too, because it's no point being in the white family and trying to raise a Black person as a white person, because that's not going to work, is it? It's only going to get you so far before the Black guy realizes.
They need to be culturally aware. Go and do your research, find out how to cane roll the hair. And the thing is, when I was with the white family, we were going to stay there because, to be honest with you, I'm not going to lie, to this day, I still remember them. It was the most peaceful time of my life, and the reason being because they didn't have poverty and everything. I remember everything had a time, and you know when you're that child that can go up to your own flipping routine and be like, oh, I know what I'm doing at 2:25. Like, and I was, when I think of it, I thought I was about 6 because of how intelligent I was. When I realized that I was 2, I was like, I was 2 doing all of that. And then when I came to the Black family and I was so independent, they pulled us back. They were like, what you think you're doing? You're not a big woman in here. And I'm like, so we had a massive battle, because we came from, if we saw toys on the TV, we could look at those toys and go, I want that. And by next week we'd have it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't because we were spoiled. It was a development toy. Do you understand what I mean? Like it wouldn't be given to us because we asked for it. It would be given to us because we had to earn it. Does that make sense? To get it? But it would be that toy that we pointed at, not the The no-frills version
Yeah, the
from
cheap version.
Poundland.
Well, that breaks up, you get it, open
Bruv,
it.
you get me? And when we went to the black people, oh my God, the culture shock. And
The culture shock.
Listen, they thought we were snobs. They were like, what kind of coconut children is this?
Yeah.
Because we were like,
wait, coconut. Oh, coconut.
yeah, you know what I mean?
We call it
Like,
Oreo here.
white on the inside, black on the outside. Because we were just like,
we say Oreo.
Oreo, yeah, that too. Yeah,
I heard Oreo now. We got it here. But yeah, we call it Bounty or coconut. They used to call us, man, coconuts. But I tell you, I went through it, and I remember, like, so when I grew up, I made that decision as that young that when I'm a mother, I'm going to give my children a balance. I was like, I'm not going to be like, because I'm black, you can't have, because it's not like, do you know what I mean? There was times where they had the money.
Yeah.
It wasn't a poverty issue, because I remember social services were like, what do they want? Just send us the fee. And they would deliberately not give it to us. I mean, like,
I think it's like teaching you to be humble.
Yeah, there's a level. They teach us to go out and thief when the money's in the bank.
That could be a.
But then there's also people who just take your money and say like, oh, I need this. Like they'll say, oh, we need this much money because she wants this bike, and then they don't get you the bike.
Yeah.
So like,
it's
one of the two things.
If your children need to steal, there's a problem.
Yes.
Because a child doesn't naturally go and steal. Don't get me wrong, some people are bad. But you know, if you're stealing food, if your child is stealing food.
Wait. I got a caveat to that, because my godsons, they are as spoiled as my son. I'm not going to pretend like I don't spoil my kid. If he's ever asked for anything, he gets it, because that's what just how
it's a complex we have in it. It's a complex we have.
My godsons are the same way. They never had to ask for anything, and they steal. Like they've been stealing since they were little, and it's to see if they could get away with it. They're good. They're still good boys, but they steal.
Criminals.
And then the idea that if your kid is stealing food, that they might be hungry, that's almost got my godson put into foster care because he was stealing the snacks out of other people's lunch boxes.
Yeah.
So he would have ended up in foster care for stealing snacks.
Wait, they would have put him in foster care for stealing snacks.
Yeah, they were saying that his mother wasn't feeding him. Because when they ask,
they do put it down to that, because a child, but what it is, something's missing, because when a child steals, it just means there's you know what I mean? So they go and take, because they're not getting, it could not be food, it could be something else. But and you know, like when you take back your control. Died.
Yeah, for my godsons, their dad died. And one of their dad died, and the other one is living. So the older one, his dad died, and he's just kind of been slowly rebelling since then. He finally got his stuff together at 18. He never like got in trouble with the law, but it's more like everyone fawned over him and gave him everything he wanted, so he just didn't have to behave. He didn't have to be a good boy. And now he's in college and he's doing great. But the younger one, who's the one who almost got put in foster care, followed his big brother's lead and was stealing stuff and was and so when the teachers are like, "Why are you stealing these snacks?" He's like, "I'm hungry." Next thing you know, a whole investigation. He's hungry because the school starts at 7:30 in the morning and the kids ate lunch at 1:30. He's hungry because the school had such a long time between breakfast and lunch that he's still in, but they didn't look at their problem. They looked at, well, his mother must not be feeding him.
Yeah.
And that could have gotten him taken away. Meanwhile, I know plenty of white kids. I had one white friend tell me these stories about how she would go to school and she'd have like a bologna sandwich that her mom would send with her. And that would be what she got for the day. Not because her mom was intentionally trying to abuse her. They were just that poor. And in the United States, for some reason, they don't like poor single mothers. Screw you. It will take your children from you if you can't do good enough. But he is white.
It's really strange, isn't it?
But he's white from the suburbs. Hold on.
Were like in England, hold on. I ended up in care.
Wait, so for this guy, he was white and from the city. And so DFAC's system never even looked at him as needing to be placed or needing help. Okay. Whereas a black child who's well taken care of, and this isn't the 80s, this is like 90s, 2000s, black child well taken care of who steals because it's a long time between lunch and dinner, lunch and breakfast, they're ready to take him away.
It's tipped in the favor of white folks, in it. It's like if you're black, you only have to step 1 foot out of line and you're going straight through the system. if you're white, you can do whatever you want, and you'll be.
If you're white in a wealthy area, because my friends from the rural country places, it was bad. They was just as bad. They actually are convinced that the government has been trying to dismantle them, with like the opioid epidemic that we have here, because it's hitting the rural places. We have a really bad opioid epidemic here in the United States.
Opium.
Yes, and it's hitting rural country people. And they're convinced that it's the government trying to destroy them, because these same people, like, QAnon, you've heard of these, like, Save Our Children.
Oh yeah.
There's a root to that, though. What you get is you have the government who takes children for no freaking reason, including these country white kids, like just taking them for no reason. They take the children, the children are abused in care. I can't emphasize enough how much abuse we experienced. Rape, and I wasn't personally raped by anyone in the foster system. I was raped while on the streets. But a lot of my friends, especially my country girl white friends, were raped in their foster homes and by foster parents, and the state wouldn't come and get them. They wouldn't take them away. They wouldn't believe them when they said anything.
You're talking to, I know, I'm a survivor. Yeah. And then I'm only just now at this big age starting to tell my story. And even then, it's not something that is easy to tell, because like I said, there's a lot of triggers that happen. Does that make sense? Like, yeah. It's not easy, but it's real. It is happening. And as I've got older and I've realized where I was, because when you're in a full care order, it's very different to when you're on a half care order. And
I don't know what that means.
So full care is where the local authority have got they are your parents. The parents have no rights. Yeah, so if they want to send you to another country, if you go missing, no one's looking for you.
No one looked for us. And that's one of the reasons why QAnon. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why those QAnon places and stuff exist, because they abuse the kids in the system. They get them hooked on all these different drugs. I'm trying to tell you is this, like, okay, let me. Oh my God, there's things I want to say that I can't say. Like, you don't even understand. Let me finish this one point, though.
Let's talk about the QAnon thing. I'm interested in that.
Let me just finish this one point. And so after they're like abused and stuff in the system, they're then either shipped to prison to be further abused while they're young boys, like 14, 15, 16-year-old boys going to adult jail, or girls who are thrown into the street, or in my case, or in the case of the shelter where the pimps could come on campus. And so you got the sex trafficking part. And then when all that's done,
I know you're looking thinking it's real.
But here's the crazy part. When all that's done, they throw you away at about 17 so they don't have to pay for your college.
Yeah, when you're 17, you're a care leaver, then you're meant to have the aftercare period. But if you're a bad child, you'll never get it. You'll never get it.
If you're a good child.
If you're a good child, or a child that they feel that they can control, or you tick boxes. So I was a tick box child.
Unless you're a girl who gets pregnant, like stateside, unless you were a girl who got pregnant about 16 or 17, they would throw you out. They would keep you if you were 16 or 17 so they could steal your baby. They actually stole one of my friend's
I was going to say to you now,
really?
I got pregnant when I was 19, so I was still under the local authority. Yeah. Now I stayed with them, and they said to me, in England, because they know how hard your life's going to be, if they say to you, if you get to university, they will pay all your uni fees, everything. Like if you want to go and stay in dorms, if you want to get a mortgage, a mortgage on a flat, they don't tell you that. Now that I'm a big woman, I'm realizing what I could have flipping done. Right?
Yeah, but they don't tell you. They don't tell anybody.
They're your parents. So if you want to go and buy put a mortgage down on a 1-bedroom flat, they will help you with that. You know what I mean?
But you have to know, and what they do is they try to make you not want to stay.
So I had some blessing angels of support, social workers along those, the years that I was in care. And the ones that were lovely always shook me, and my system was like, go to uni, go to uni, go to uni. No matter what happens, go to uni. Yeah. So I had it drilled in my head, because they were like, you'll get money when you're 21. That will just keep you going. You need to basically make sure that the system have got you until you're 25. If they drop you before you're 25, you're going to struggle. Yeah. So I stayed in education. I saw that what you went through, my sister went through what you went through. She's darker skinned than me. She had different treatment to me blatantly because she was darker than me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like you, her temperament's like yours. She can't help herself.
So
she was always getting, it was just horrible.
I I wasn't usually like, this is what makes this whole thing worse. But to wrap up the QAnon thing, what they would do is they would throw kids back and send them back to their communities, and they would have no ties. And then all of a sudden, everyone's left to wonder why the hell did you take our kids? Because we couldn't beat them to abuse them. So that's how QAnon, not QAnon, but that's how the Save Our Children, Pizzagate stuff here in the United States started. Is because of all of these white rural kids who were abused. That now have no idea why it happened, and they were sex trafficked, and they believe the government did it on purpose. I personally, I don't know. I know there's no pizza parlor with Hillary Clinton running it, but as far as the government intentionally throwing us into prisons and sending us on the streets to be sex trafficked,
come on, we all know this. I knew it when I was a kid. I knew that there's more to this than meets the eye. I could see it. Right, the social workers, this is what I'm trying to tell you. They can't tell you because they'll lose their jobs, but they try to tell you little things.
Mine totally did.
Get it?
My caseworker, I almost got arrested for stealing lipstick because I wanted to go to a concert. And I was 16. I'd been on the streets already for about 8 months. And my caseworker, who I hated and I thought was the worst person in the world, and she just never called me, never did anything. She came to get me, and in her car, without anybody around, she finally said, like, these people are trying to destroy you. Like, she's like, you are falling into exactly what they want you to do. You're going to end up in jail. You're going to be in prison.
Love her. Them are the kind of people that I used to book upon.
Yeah, she's also the reason I was homeless. So don't love her too much.
No, but you know, when you said she wasn't around, right? I found that, you know, some of the social workers used to leave. You know, when they challenge their bosses.
Yeah, they would get fired. And she had 50 kids.
Do anything because they're just like.
She had 50 kids on her caseload, including me. And she was just like, we butted heads, but in this case, she finally, because at the time, a lot of my friends, we were all wondering what was happening because we had all been sent home. And we were sent home to homes that were deemed not fit enough for us to live in the first place. So friends who were injecting their mothers with heroin before, when they were 10, went back to doing that. Friends who... they were sent. I was sent home to my mother, my mom just didn't like me, and I was a rape baby. So there's a reason she didn't like me. There's this whole story. But at the end of the day, she did not like me. She did not want me. I was sent back home to her, and within and we had no food, no furniture, no like no clothing, nothing. Like I was in an empty house sleeping on the floor. And it's not like she was doing it just to me. She didn't have a bed. She didn't have anything.
She was neglecting herself. It sounds like
no, she wasn't neglecting herself. This is called poverty in America.
It's poverty, yeah.
Oh yeah, Bumbo. So could you imagine being a mother? Of course, they're not going to want to look after their children if that's the world that they're going to bring them home to.
And she said she didn't want me. The place I was at was like, and I wasn't the only one. My friend who made that bad joke, she was sent back to her mother, and within a week she was raped by her babysitter. Her mother adamantly said, I don't want her, don't send her back here, don't send her back here, don't send her back here. They sent her back, and she got raped immediately. And then the state had to open a case. In my case, the day after my 16th birthday, my mother threw me out because 16 in the United States, your parents don't have to have you living with them. So she threw me out. She could get away with it.
Man.
Yeah, she could get away with it legally. And it's horrible. But the point of it is,
can I ask how old you are, Quay?
I am 37, I think. 37.
Exactly. Are you 83 born?
You think you're 37?
When you get to a certain point and you're a woman, you just kind of want to stop counting, and people keep reminding you, and you don't want them to keep counting. My son is
born in 83 or 84.
I was born in 83. 83.
Same as me. With the same age. It's crazy. That's mad.
We're all the same age, yeah, actually.
Oh, yay! Yeah.
We're young. We're young.
You're 37, Wayne.
I'm 38.
You look much younger.
I know.
Yeah, I thought he was like in his like early 20s, and that you were like about 25, 26.
Really?
That's the classic, isn't it?
Really? I wish. Yeah, I would have said about 31, 32. You look to me.
No, I want to stay my age I am now, man. I don't want to be young again. I don't want that again. No.
I would not go be back in my early 20s to save my life.
Me.
If I could stay 30, like 35 forever, I would totally do that. but I would not go back.
Hello.
Although I would go back
I'm
to
here with
being
that.
like 16 because I was a badass. I was so badass that when your wisdom teeth come in,
God.
I'm gonna tell
But you know what? Listening to you, reminding me. This is what I mean. You're like so many memories because, like you said, I'm a million worlds away from that. Now, and it's weird.
I want to hear this wisdom tooth story.
All right. So my wisdom teeth came in when I was about 16-ish and on the street, and they come in. Sometimes they get infected.
Yeah.
And mine were infected, and I had these like flaps over them that were just like these big pus balls, and I took a razor blade and I cut them out.
I don't want to hear the story.
Like I was badass.
Yo. I'm sorry. Everybody's listening.
I'm sleeping on buses at the time. You just had to do what you had to do.
Yeah, you're a survivor. So have you done counseling and things like this, Quay? What have you done to heal?
I have a neuroscience degree.
Did you say zero? Nothing.
No, she has a neuroscience degree.
Okay. So go on.
I'm an advocate. Hold on. I'll say this. I'm an advocate for mental health.
So you've done your training. So you have healed.
No.
That's a degree.
I have to explain it. Okay. So in my group homes were locked down mental hospitals where they force fed us drugs and they labeled everyone as crazy, whether or not we were crazy. There's like maybe 2 kids that were crazy there. All of us, rest of us were normal and being force fed drugs. I tried to get therapy after my best friend got killed, like right next to me.
Sorry?
Best friend got killed right next to you.
You can't just skip past things like that.
That don't work on Blackopolypse. We need to get everything.
I'll tell you that story. So I tried to get therapy after that, and the dude is talking about, tell me about your mother, and I'm like, I'm here because my friend got killed. So I stopped that because I didn't feel like telling someone my life story when I was immediately trying to process a trauma. And then I tried therapy when I was in college, and I'm a single mom, and my kid had just been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, and everything was going to hell. I had a 4.0 GPA, and I was supposed to go to college in Scotland in St. Andrews. And I was competing for this thing called the Marshall Scholarship, which is kind of like the Rhodes Scholarship. That was like, you can go to Europe. You can go to Europe and study if you want. And I couldn't even compete because my son's dad refused to sign for him to get a passport. So I was like in this like whole mess. And I was in this office with this therapist, and she says, Quay, there's not a pill that can fix this. There's nothing I can really do to help you. You're not crazy. You're not maladjusted. Your life sucks. And,
your life sucks. That's it.
Yeah, it's just like
sucky life.
Oh my
You got the sucky life. That's your problem.
I wasn't expecting that.
And she's like, there's nothing I can really do to help you. In fact, she's like, anything I could do for you, you already know, because you just
got the shit end of the stick.
Yeah, she's like, anything I could do for you, you already know, because you're getting a psychology degree. Like I have a degree in psychology, I have a degree in neuroscience. I went through this whole thing where I had to like do developmental psychology and differential diagnosis and talking about making treatment plans. My son, who was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, I actually made the treatment, the behavioral intervention plan. Wait, hold on. I actually made the behavior intervention plan for my kid. So I didn't need.
I love that.
Yeah, so I didn't when it came down to it, therapy for me doesn't. Yeah, therapy for me would be pointless because it's not a matter of healing for me. It's a matter of getting over the constant barrage of garbage that I have to keep experiencing as a Black woman in the United States. Had I gotten out of college,
the trauma.
Yeah, it's trauma, but it's also like I got out of college and I was just published some paper about this. I got out of college and immediately all the racism I really didn't experience hard as a kid, I was hit with in the corporate world, and just being.
Oh, for God's
sake. I had one boss tell me.
It's just relentless.
Yeah, it's an endless thing. And so I think once it's all over, let's say my book gets published, I make $1 million, and I have a minute to stop there and heal and actually look and not be being traumatized, I might have a breakdown and need therapy.
Oh, okay.
But for right now, it's just my life is sucky.
No. Don't say that. The power is in the tongue. If you were going to break down, my darling, you would have broke down when you had to cut the abscess thing out your mouth. right? Like,
Oh no, I just
believe
thought that was
me,
cool.
You're strong, and you're strong for a reason.
When I cut that out, I just thought I was being cool. I ended up
No, I
messing
can just
myself up
imagine
really
what kind
bad.
of
I ended up
kid
in the
you were.
hospital. I had infection
I thought so.
everywhere.
That's
It
what
was
I was
not a
gonna say.
bright thing to do.
I thought so. At the time, it sounded like a good idea. You know what? You know what, guys?
No.
We'll kind of run a bit longer.
Okay.
But I want to get
You're very
you back.
tough.
Yeah, she's very tough. Yeah. What I want to do, I want to get you back in 2 weeks. Can I get you back on, Quay?
You can get me back in 2 weeks. I should have a camera, at least one functional computer in 2 weeks. Maybe.
Yeah, I definitely want to get you back so we can actually see you as well. I think that'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I say one final word?
Yeah, sure,
One
sure.
final thing. So the whole reason I approached
you can unravel this kind of story.
The whole reason I approached you, and the reason why I'm trying to find Black specific podcasts to speak to, is I wanted to talk about the loss of culture and being someone who was in foster care and the need for Black families. So if you're listening to this, and I know you've heard the stories about Laverne, is that right?
Yeah.
Laverne growing up with her.
Yeah, I'm just starting to share mine, so we're kind of on the same journey, aren't we, Wayne? It's brilliant. But you're a lot more braver than me. I find that American girls are just badass, man. I'm sitting here thinking, like Laverne, I thought you thought you were a bad girl, innit?
We have to be.
This is a real bad girl, yeah. And I respect you and I rate you so much because I know I've just a tiny bit of what you've been through, but I know the mental that you need to have to become who you are now. So I'm saying, I respect you so much because I know what all the battles that you've had to face, and like you're saying, you're still facing some. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
I mean, it's
keep going because you're giving people like me energy.
So what I want to say is, for anyone who's listening,
do you know what I mean? Because I'm going hard, but I'll go harder because I'm seeing that there's other people out there going at 100.
Miss Major, let her finish.
So what I want to say is, for anyone who's listening, and you've heard my
whole... sorry.
It's okay. I think there's actually a time delay, so it sounds like I've stopped.
That's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is.
That's why I realized a little bit. But for anyone who's listening, if you hear my stories, and if you can imagine that they're all still happening to young Black, young Native, young everybody, children, foster, because while I'll always say anybody who will foster a child, whether they're Black, white, Asian, or whatever, they should do that. But we need more Black foster parents. We need for our kids to be enveloped in our culture. There's been a push by Native American communities to get their children back, to have their children when they're removed to be placed into Native American families. There's been a push for Asians to adopt Asian babies from Korea and China, so that white people aren't erasing their culture, which is a really big problem for all of those Asian kids who are adopted by white people. They're forced to be white, and they don't get to learn about what it's like to be in their culture. The same thing's happening to Black kids, but I don't see the same movement among Black people to push to have our children remain in our community. So I'm asking everyone to foster, adopt, and really bring home the message that our kids need to stay with us as much as possible, and open your homes and your doors, because you'll never know the person who you will get. I am a neuroscientist. I have a neuroscience degree, and I was just a nerdy kid who wanted to go to school. But if you would have looked at me on paper, I was a psychopathic, apparently a drug user. I found out I was a drug user at 19. I didn't know I was a drug abuser, but okay. So on paper, I was a IV drug user, runaway hooker. But in reality, I was just a nerd who wanted to go to school. None of the stuff they said was true. And when you leave kids to the system, that's what you leave them subject to, is having a bunch of people lying about them to cover their own asses, essentially, and denying them the futures that they deserve, and also denying them the culture. And that culture is something you actually can't get back. I'm 37 years old, and I'm desperately trying to become a part of quote unquote Black culture, but there's just so much lost, so many memories I don't have, so many references I don't know. I still can't booty shake. So yeah, just please adopt them.
Don't worry, you can come on my boot camp. When you come to England, I'll teach you how to booty shake.
Teach you how to booty shake too.
We got all of that, Danny.
Hey,
that's everything.
That's a promise. So like I was saying, 2 weeks, we definitely get you back on. Save the date. You too, Miss Major, because we've got to finish this. Obviously, this is something we talk about over like 7 or 8 episode. I think. Yeah, so in 2 weeks I'll send you guys an invite, and yeah, we'll make it happen again. We'll continue on the story because we need to hear everything. You know, we haven't even touched the skirt, we haven't even scratched the surface, and I think the people have been really.
Yeah, you need to ask some, because I was expecting you to ask some serious questions, some personal questions. I was waiting for that.
Yeah,
we
but
normally do.
the thing is, we could do, but we're going for 5 or 6 hours. You know, and I wanted to find out a little bit about Quay, which I didn't even find out that much actually. So I want to find out more. So yeah, definitely in 2 weeks we'll get you back on. Maybe we'll do this over like maybe 4 or 5 episodes actually.
Okay.
All right.
Got
any last messages? Quay, you want to promote anything?
My website, Quay180.com. Go there. You can read some of the stories from my insane, but funny childhood. It's not poverty porn. It's not trauma porn. It's actually good stories that make you think about society. And then if you like what you read, like me on Facebook, because I'm trying to get a book published. And for some reason, they expect you to be famous before they try to sell your book. So help.
Rubbish. Okay, good.
Really?
Yeah, you know how it is, man. If you don't have any people following you already, you're nobody. AJ, you got anything coming up?
Major.
Major, you got anything coming up?
She's so cute.
No, I've got nothing to say today.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Nothing to say today, apart from everybody just stay safe.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to have you guys with me, and yes.
Sorry, there's a time lapse, Wayne. I'm not trying to talk when you're talking.
I know it's. All right, good night, guys. We'll see you guys. Remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. And I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye.
Take care. Nice meeting you, Quay.
It's nice meeting you too.
See you soon, Wayne.
Yeah,
See you. Bye.